Hello everyone, it's me, Thomas Fixter, coming to you with a video. Leadership 101. Lying isn't leading. One of the saddest realities of current political climate is the prevalence of lies and misleading statements from many of our leaders. The Washington Post article President Trump has made more than 20,000 false or misleading claims, just one of the many reports recounting the consistent stream of less than truthful statements come from the nation's top leader. Lies or distortions ranging from seamlessly incautious topics like the size of his inauguration crowd size to critically important ones like the severity of the coronavirus threat lead one to question if there's anything too small or too large to lie about. Charles Bohr, New York Times piece for Trump, lying is a superpower party of this dangerous cocktail of lying and leadership. Presidents, lies, and distortions don't just have enormous consequences in and of themselves. Unfortunately, this high-profile leadership example invariably serves as a role model that normalizes behavior for leaders throughout both the public and private sectors. For those leaders who might be arrogant enough to think that they have the right, even the responsibility, to distort the truth, as they determine the necessary to benefit the organization, consider these very real risks. Lying erodes truth. Arguably the most important ingredient for a strong team is trust. Staff don't need to know that you always give good news. They need to know you always tell it to them straight, and when leaders don't, they learn not to trust them. For leaders, credibility is everything, and lying is simply the common night that destroys a team's trust for the leader. When people sense that you're lying, they may assume things are worse than they actually are. People typically can sense when they're not getting the full truth, and one terribly unfortunate consequence of that spidey sense is that it can encourage paranoid or negative fantasies. He's an example of potential mental thought process that someone may have after a disappointing encounter with his director. Jeff seemed like he was really holding back. When I asked about the possible promotion, I could tell he isn't really on board. Maybe that gaffy with the client last week bothered him a lot more than he let on. I should probably start thinking about networking with some other directors to find a more supportive boss, or even start filming with Zoom. People simply don't respect lies. For many leaders, credibility is often determined by the level of respect they earn throughout the organisation, and shock all of our shocks. People don't like being lied to. They don't like it, and it doesn't in gender respect. Leaders often rationalize their deception because they assume that they're measured by a different standard. The truth is that they often are measured by a different standard and a higher one. If you lie about the smaller things, staff may distrust you with the big things. Even worse, if you lie constantly, staff may begin to flexibly distrust everything you say. The boy who cried wolf phenomenon shortly after President Trump's COVID-19 diagnosis was announced. The Los Angeles Times ran a story entitled Trump's falsehoods lead many to question the news of his COVID-19 illness. The truth is that when stakes are highest, organizations need to trust their leaders, and if that goodwill isn't there, they may very well distrust leadership when leaders need their trust the most. Lying encourages others to lie. Creating a culture of deception can be extremely dangerous. Leaders who habitually lie run the risk of normalizing that behavior and unwittingly create a culture of deception that just might be boomerang back on them. When they least suspect it, it really shouldn't come as a surprise that leaders who regularly lie often find others around them begin to lie as well. Some are more likely to lie or distort information because they feel it's been somewhat normalized, while others may feel pressure to perpetuate the leader's lies in order to further the leader's goals. Most recently, President Trump's doctor has come under fire for being less than forthcoming, if not completely untruthful, during his public statements about the president's health. Article Trump's communication, his credibility gap, exposed the symptoms of this problem amidst the national crisis. What's the alternative? For decades, I've addressed this issue with well-meaning leaders who understandably find themselves in situations where determining the right level of transparency can be complicated at best. Am I insisting that leaders must share everything all the time? Of course not. Instead, I'm advising leaders that when faced with difficult staff questions, they are perfectly focused responses. Number one, tell them the truth. Number two, tell them you don't know, but you'll find out. Number three, tell them you can't tell them. In my experience, a key reason why leaders often resort to lies, distortions, or other mistruths is that they don't realise that each of these is a perfect regimen and palatable response. Leaders often completely underestimate staff's ability to absorb bad news, and they also often fail to realise staff don't expect perfection or 100% transparency. The vast majority will understand that there will be times when certain information can't be shared, e.g. personal details, over sensitive or proprietary information, and they're much more likely to expect a candid response. Too often leaders treat staff as if they're dumb and if they simply just don't give them enough credit. It doesn't take a leadership expert to know that's not the recipe for establishing credibility. Building trust or strengthen relationships as the country desperately struggles to emerge from stimulus tragedies. The pandemic devastated economic impact, crisis impact, racial injustice, subsequent protests. Strong leadership may be more important now than ever. Indeed, honest, forthright, and candid leadership needed to needed to begin to soothe these deep, open, gaping collective wounds. Every American wishes President Trump and President Trump the speedy recovery. We wish for President Trump himself, right? Well, guys, that time again. Thank you for watching. If you subscribe to my channel, and like and share and comment on the video.